Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to take a look at a really simple JavaScript tutorial. But before we jump in, here are the timestamps for when each subtopic is going to be covered. All right, so let's just dive right in. So I've got the instructions for this tutorial here. We're just going to skip down and start with part 1. So it says Cookie Clicker is an incremental internet game released in 2013. The player clicks on a big cookie, receiving a cookie for each click. The more you click, the more cookies you get. In this part, you'll create your own simple version of Cookie Clicker. All right, sounds easy enough. So first, open your favorite graphics program, it could be Paint, Google Draw, whatever, and create your own cookie sprite. You can choose any cookie type you want, be creative, save your image as a GIF or GIF, JPEG, or PNG. Alternatively, you can also download an image off the web or use the one provided in the resources for this tutorial. So I'm going to use the one that's provided. I've got here choco_cookie. So we'll just use that. It's going to be really simple. But if you want to make your own, go for it. Maybe pause the video and go do that. All right, so that's that. So now that we have our cookie, it's time to create and design the page. Create a new HTML page called cookies.html. So I'm using Atom, but you can use whatever editor you want. You could even use Notepad if you were so inclined. As long as you name this file cookies.html and whatever you're using as your editor, you can type text. So as long as you can do that, you're fine. Plain text. Okay, cookies.html. So let's see, the page needs a title, instructions, a big cookie that the player can click, and a space to display the total number of cookies the player has received. The exact design style are left up to you, but an example is provided below. It looks like there's the example. So let's go ahead and get everything set up. So our document type is going to be HTML. And we always start HTML with these, with the HTML tags, right? So that tells the browser what it is that it's looking at. And inside of here, you're going to have your head tag. You want the opening and the closing tags. And the body. So the head's where the metadata and stuff that doesn't actually show up on the page goes typically. And the body is the actual structure, it's the actual content. So while we're here, we're going to give it a title. So this is actually the title that will show up on the tab. So on the little bar, like here, this says JavaScript tutorial.pdf. This is going to be the title that shows up on the browser tab. We'll call it Cookie Clicker. Alrighty, I don't think we need any more metadata yet. We'll come back and add some style attributes in just a bit. All right, so let's see, what do we need inside of here? Well, we need a title. So let's use an H1. That's the biggest of all the headings. And we can come back and assess if that's big enough in a second. And we'll just say Cookie Clicker. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. All right, here we go. So that's what we've done so far. So we've got our web page. It's working, and it says Cookie Clicker. And up here, you can see in the tab, it also says Cookie Clicker. All right, what else do we need? We need some instructions, and that's just going to be a paragraph, so the P tag. And you could write something really simple here. You don't have to do exactly what I'm going to do. It could just be as simple as click on the cookie and receive a cookie or something. I like the one that's down here in this example, so I'm going to copy that. Cookies. That's the talk of the town. No one knows why. Everyone wants some. Let's do that so we can actually see. every time you click the cookie below, you'll receive one sweet virtual cookie. What are you waiting for? Keep clicking. Yeah, I don't know why you would want a bunch of cookies, but that's the name of the game, right? So let's save it and refresh. And now you'll see that our paragraph is here. Alrighty. What else do we need? Well, now we need the cookie. That's pretty important. So the cookie is going to be an image. So it's an IMG tag. And this is one of those tags that you can open and close all at once. So if you'll recall, image takes a source, and the source is going to be the name of the image. So whatever you called your image, that's what you're going to put here. And if you have your image in a separate folder or you've got some sort of directory structure going on, you're going to need to provide the file path. And I recommend a relative path instead of an absolute path. That way it can work on more than one machine. But for this really simple example, I just got them all at the same level and they're all in the same directory. So we can do choco cookie.png. And I'm using a PNG because that will allow me to have the transparent background. And you'll see that in just a second. We'll refresh this. And there's the cookie. And you see around the edges, we don't have anything. It's nice and clear, transparent. That cookie is really, really big. I know it says a big cookie. I don't think it means that big. So what we can do is set the width equal to maybe 50% of the screen or something. Refresh. Okay, now the cookie's a little bit more of a manageable size. Notice the cookie grows as we move the page. So instead of setting a specific width as in like pixels, we can do this. And this is usually better if you don't know how big the screen of your user is going to be. So you could have something like a phone or a tablet or a laptop or a massive PC. So that's why you might want to use width with a percentage instead. Alrighty. Got the cookie and a space to display the total number of cookies. That sounds like another paragraph. It's only going to be a line, but we can put it inside of a paragraph. There's a paragraph's a block element, so it keeps the things separated. And we'll call this the cookie inventory. And initially, we'll set that to 0. All right, there we go. That looks like that's all the elements that we needed. The title, instructions, big cookie, and space where we can see how many cookies we have. The design's left up to us. So from this point on, you don't have to follow along with me. Play with this, make it look like whatever you want. But if you want to follow along with me, I'm just going to make it look like it does here in this example. So let us go ahead and dive into that. So we're going to start adding some CSS to this. So the first thing you might notice is it looks very plain. With a white background, you don't really see just plain white very often anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some style elements, and I'm going to apply most of these just to the body. So anything that is within these body tags is going to get applied to. So let's first set background color to light gray. Okay, so now it's a little less plain looking. And I like things to be centered, especially if there's only a little bit going on. So we can do text, align, center. You see how easy that is? It's just boom, one thing, we moved it all. Let's see. What else do we need to do to make it look like that? Well, it would be nice if we had the instructions in this little box. That would look better. So what we can do there, so let's just add an ID. ID instructions. So remember, an ID is unique. It's specific to an element, whereas a class can span multiple elements. Multiple elements can belong to a single class. And we can use that up here. You use the hashtag, the pound symbol, instructions, and now we can apply styles to this specific paragraph. And what we're going to want to do is order style double. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can do it all in one line if you want. I think it's like border double black. Actually, let's try to do it that way. Double 10 pixel black. Let's see if that does it. Bingo. Cool. And you see it a little close here. So we can add some padding. Padding is within the element, so it's whatever your content is here. The padding is the space to the border. Margins, those are the space between elements. So we're going to add some padding. And let's do like maybe 8 pixels of padding. And it'll be on all sides. Okay, so that's better. It's a little too wide. So we'll do the same width trick again. 80%. Alrighty, so there we go. But it's not centered. So to do that, margin auto. All right, now it's centered. Let's see, is there anything else that we need to do? Just compare it to the example. This is a slightly different color, so it really draws your attention to it. So we'll do that too. Background color, dark gray. So that's that. So it looks like the last thing we need to do is change the font, because this font doesn't look all that fun. This isn't a game I want to play. So included with the tutorial, there is something called cartoon_cookies. That's a TTF file, so that's a font file. You can use this one if you want, or you can use a font that's on your system, or you can go and find a different font on the internet, whatever you want. If you do that, do make sure you include it in the directory though. All right, so if we want to use a font that's not on our system, instead it's just in this file, all you need to do is in the style tag, at the top, you do at font face. And we're going to say font family. We're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it cartoon. And then you're going to provide a source. So this is going to be where you can find that file. And notice it says URL. So you could actually pull one of these straight off of the internet if you wanted to. All right, so that's that. Get some spacing in here, make it easier to read. All right, so now we just need to set the font for everything to that. So font family. And just to show you what this might look like, you can do like Arial. See how that changed the font? So there's built-in ones, and you can look up all the ones that are available, but we just loaded in our own. Let's see, what went wrong here? Cartoon. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I found the error. It's cartoon cookies, not cartoon cookie. All right, so we save that, refresh it. Now we can see our new font. Now this font, when it's that small size, is a little bit hard to read. So it looks like if we're going based off of this, we need to increase the size of our font. So I'm just going to make all the fonts twice as large as they'd normally be. So this is going to be the font size attribute, 20%. And if you're interested in knowing all of these attributes and what sorts of things you can customize, W3 Schools is really good resources for these. There we go. So that looks good. I'm happy with this. So I think now we can continue on to the next part of the problem. So at the end of this step, we've reached that. We now have what's called a static mockup. So this is what our page looks like, but it's not functional. So it's static, it doesn't change. So once we're happy with the design, it is time to add the interactivity to the page. So let's add a script tag. So we're going to add the script up here in the head. You could put it in the body, but with the stuff that I think we're going to end up adding, it's just as well to put it here. All right. So we add the script tag, and this is where we're going to actually write our JavaScript code. And in this tag, it says we're going to create a new variable called cookies. So use the var keyword and cookies. And we're going to initially set that to 0 because we have 0 cookies. Now create a function called add cookie. The function keyword is how you start a function declaration. So function add cookie doesn't take any parameters. And what's add cookie do? Well, it looks like it adds 1 to the cookie total. So cookies plus equals 1. Pretty simple. Add cookie should also update the page's HTML to display the new cookie total. You should be able to use inner HTML to accomplish this. Okay, and we got a hint down here that's going to help us with this. You may want to put the cookie total in a span tag with the ID count. So let's go ahead and add that. So down here where it says 0, span is an inline element, and it really is just used to mark what we're looking at. It doesn't necessarily mean anything for the structure of the page. So we'll add the span with the ID count. And to prove to you that that doesn't change anything, we'll just reload this, you see. It looks the exact same. All right. So initially it's going to be 0, so we can just leave that. Then what we're going to do is document dot, I think it's get element by ID. Yep. And the ID of the element that we care about is count. So now we've got this span. And we want to set the inner HTML, which is right now 0, it's what's in between these tags, to the cookie. So dot inner HTML equals cookies, which is the cookie total. All right, so that should be that function. It's really short, pretty simple. But we'll see that it's kind of powerful. Finally, add an on-click attribute to the image tag for your big cookie. So what that means is when the image is clicked on, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to add cookie. So let's run the code in the browser and see if it works. Look at that. The cookie inventory is going up. But it only happens when we click on the cookie. Now, if you click around the cookie, it's technically this square. And there's probably ways that you could go about refining this a little bit more, but for our purposes, we're just going to say this is fine. Okay. And then also, if for whatever reason you wanted to use the cookie emoji, here's how you can access it. Here's the numbers associated with it. So that's it. That's part 1. So now let's dive into part 2. So part 2 is called night mode. So have you ever looked at your phone or computer in a dark room? Did the brightness of the screen hurt your eyes? Luckily, there's a solution to this problem. Many websites and apps have added a night mode that is easier on the eyes. In night mode, text is white and the background is a dark color, typically black or dark gray. This contrasts with the more familiar light mode, where the text is black and the background white. Add a button to your cookie clicker game that allows the user to toggle between light and night mode. When this button is pressed, if the game is in light mode, it should switch to night mode. If the game is in night mode, it should switch to light mode. You can accomplish this with a Boolean flag. So let's go ahead and add that. Let's go back to our script. I'm just going to add these under. So we're going to add a Boolean flag, so that's either true or false, called night mode. So night mode is going to be true when the app is in night mode, and it's going to be false when it's not. Pretty simple. And we'll set this equal to false by default. And we're going to have a function called switch mode. That's not going to take any parameters. So the function switch mode simply switches night mode between true and false and then updates the display. So first, let's just switch it. So once this is called, switch mode is going to equal the opposite of switch mode. So you could do this with an if. You could say if switch mode equals not switch mode, or equals false, or whatever. But why do all of that when you can write it in one line? So this just flips it. And we're going to want to use a conditional to determine which display is appropriate. So if switch mode, notice that in JavaScript, just like in Java and a lot of other languages, you need to put these parentheses around the actual statement, the actual Boolean statement. So if switch mode, if night mode, so night modes are flag. So if night mode, then we want to use the darker background, right? So we're going to need to reset the background styling of the page. So we can do that with, it's going to be very similar to what we did up here, where we were getting the ID and then setting the inner HTML. So it's going to be document body. So we don't need to look for the element. We've already got it. It's going to be the body. We want to update its style attributes. And more specifically, we want to update the background color. And for night mode, this is going to be different depending on how you set up your, or how you've styled your page. You just want a darker color, so it's not going to be super, super bright. So I'm going to go with dark gray, since I used light gray for the light mode. Actually, let's use black. Put it in quotation marks like this. And then the text is going to be just the color. And we could set that to white. We'll see what that looks like. Oh, I just realized we didn't add our button yet, so we can't even test this. Add some space here. So in HTML, the space is collapsed. So we can add as much of it as we want to keep it readable. Got some weird indentations happening here. Let's fix that. Okay, that looks better. So I'm thinking down here, we'll just add an input tag, and it's going to be of type button value. So this is going to be the text that shows up on the button. Toggle display. And then we're going to use the same sort of on click that we put on the image. So when the button is clicked, we're going to do switch mode. This is also a tag that can open and close on the same line. Let's see if we got our button. Yes. It looks like we also got a semicolon along for the ride. Oh, there it is. All right, cool. And moment of truth. All right, cool. So that switched it to night mode. The light's a little bright. I'm going to switch this to light gray. Okay, that's a little better. This is a little hard to read. You could change the color of this too if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it. It doesn't really matter. We just want to be able to toggle to add some functionality. So if it's night mode, you're going to do this. Otherwise, you want to set it back to what it was originally. So we're going to set the background color to light gray. And we're going to set the color, which is basically the font color, so black. Fresh. And now we can toggle between the two modes. So let's see. Yeah, we used the hint. I think that's it. I'll do it. So hopefully all of this made sense and you got to this point. Now you have a fully functioning cookie clicker game. You can just click cookies until your heart's content. All right, well, I guess I'll see you in the next video.